I'm not okay. I've been holding it in for weeks.
But at least you're healthy. At least you have a job. At least it's not worse.
Right, at least.
Everything happens for a reason. Or it's gonna make you stronger.
Can I just be sad without turning it into a lesson?
Wait, you're right. I just tried to fix it because your pain made me uncomfortable.
So today we're talking about something that sounds kind, but can land like a punch.
Toxic positivity. And if you've ever heard someone tell you, at least right when you were falling apart, you already know how sharp those two words can feel. Let's start simple. Toxic positivity isn't optimism, and it's not hope either. It's when positivity turns into a kind of rule, an unspoken demand that says, you're only allowed to exist here if you're okay. It's when we try so hard to avoid pain that we erase what's real.
Right. It's that moment when someone can't handle your honesty. You're allowed to talk, but only if you sound digestible. And honestly, sometimes toxic positivity isn't even about you. It's about their discomfort with what you're feeling. They don't want to sit in it, so they try to clean it up.
Exactly. That's why people use those reflexes. Look on the bright side, or at least you still have, for they're trying to make the moment less heavy. But the truth is, it doesn't help. It just skips over the part that needs to be heard.
Let's pause on that. Because at least sounds caring, right? It's dressed up as gratitude, but underneath, it says something else. Your pain is inconvenient. You can almost hear it. Could you please stop feeling that way?
And Whitney Goodman, in her book Toxic Positivity, says that's the most dangerous part. It makes you feel like sadness or anger are signs of weakness, when in reality they're just part of being human.
Yes, and that's the trap. People confuse being positive with being emotionally mature. But emotional maturity isn't about decorating pain with nice words. It's being able to sit with it without trying to repaint it immediately.
I love that, because real positivity, healthy positivity, is born after you faced what hurts, not instead of it. Let's break it down. I like to think toxic positivity usually hides under 3 disguises.
Okay, I'm ready. Go ahead.
First disguise, the silver lining reflex. You say, I'm exhausted, I can't keep up. And someone answers, but you're strong, you'll figure it out. It sounds motivating, but what it really does is deny your exhaustion. It turns vulnerability into a challenge you have to overcome.
Yeah, that one hurts because it feels like a compliment, but it actually shuts you down. It says, you're not allowed to rest. Be strong for me.
Second disguise, comparative suffering. At least you're not sick. At least it's not worse. Suddenly your pain becomes a competition you didn't sign up for.
And when someone does that, it makes you start justifying your pain, like you need to prove you have the right to feel bad. That's when you stop sharing altogether.
And third disguise, spiritual bypassing. Everything happens for a reason. Just have faith. Manifest better energy. It hides denial behind nice words.
I'll say it. Sometimes that's not faith, that's avoidance. Real faith can hold both hope and pain at the same time. But bypassing uses spirituality to cover discomfort.
Exactly. And Goodman really insists on that. Real support doesn't rush you out of your emotions. It helps you walk through them.
Let's paint a small scene. It's 1 a.m. You're sitting in your kitchen, exhausted. You finally whisper, I can't do this anymore.
Oh no, don't say that. At least you have a roof over your head. Think of how lucky you are.
I know. I'm grateful.
Then don't think about it, okay? You'll attract negativity.
And right there, something shifts inside. You don't feel comforted. You feel smaller. You feel like you have to shrink your pain to make someone else comfortable.
Yes, that's exactly the moment Whitney Goodman describes. Toxic positivity doesn't just silence emotions, it teaches you to hide yourself. It says, be pleasant first, authentic later.
And then people wonder why we never open up. But when we did, we got corrected instead of comforted.
Before we move on, I want to recap what we said in part 1, because this topic is sneaky. Toxic positivity isn't hope, it isn't optimism. It's when positivity becomes a rule, like you're only allowed to exist if you're okay. And what makes it painful is that it often sounds kind. It comes in soft words, but it lands like a punch. We said it usually hides behind 3 disguises. The silver lining reflex, where someone turns your vulnerability into a you're strong challenge. Comparative suffering, where your pain gets compared to someone else's, so you start apologizing for feeling anything. My end, spiritual bypassing, where people use faith or everything happens for a reason as a way to skip the hard emotions instead of holding them. And in that little kitchen scene, we acted out. We saw the real damage. You don't feel comforted, you feel smaller, like you have to shrink your pain to protect the other person's comfort.
Exactly. And I want to add one thing to that recap because it's important. Toxic positivity is often a fear response. People don't always mean harm. They're uncomfortable with pain, helplessness, or uncertainty, so they reach for quick phrases that make them feel useful. But intention doesn't cancel impact, because the impact is, the emotion doesn't get processed, it gets pushed down. And when emotions get pushed down, they don't disappear. They just show up later as anxiety, resentment, burnout, or numbness. So part 1 wasn't just definitions. It was showing how a nice response can become a quiet form of emotional invalidation. And now part 2 is where we talk about what that does inside a person over time.
Let's start with the first damage. Toxic positivity trains you to distrust your emotions. You feel sad, overwhelmed, anxious, and immediately your brain hears, stop, be grateful, don't complain. It sounds like maturity, but it's often just suppression. And suppression is expensive, mentally and physically.
I want to challenge you on that, because some people will say, so what? We shouldn't encourage people anymore. Are we turning kindness into a problem? Where's the line between encouragement and toxic positivity?
That's a fair question. The line is validation first. Encouragement without validation becomes correction. If you tell me I'm drowning and I reply, look on the bright side, I didn't support you. I skipped your reality. Healthy support starts with, that sounds heavy.
So it's timing and permission.
Exactly. Ask one question. Do you want comfort or solutions? That question is like emotional intelligence in one sentence. It lets the person breathe. Toxic positivity doesn't ask. It instructs, feel better now.
And that instruction creates guilt. Like, you're already suffering, and now you feel guilty for suffering. Why can't I just be positive? What's wrong with me?
That's the second damage. Guilt and shame. You start treating normal emotions like a moral failure, and shame doesn't heal people. It isolates them, which brings the third damage. You stop opening up.
Yeah, because after a few, at least, moments, you learn, my pain is too much for people. So you become fine. You become easy to digest.
And being easy to digest is not the same as being okay. It's just being quiet.
Let's make it real with examples, because people only understand when they hear it. Okay, scenario 1. You say, I'm exhausted, I can't keep up. And someone answers, but you're strong, you always figure it out. That sounds supportive, right?
On the surface, yes, but it can land like, don't rest, perform strength. It turns vulnerability into a job interview. Prove you can handle it. A better response would be, that sounds like too much. What's been piling up?
Scenario 2. Comparative suffering. You say, I'm struggling. They say, at least you're not sick. And suddenly you're defending your emotions like you need permission.
Exactly. Pain isn't a competition. Someone else suffering doesn't cancel your suffering. Comparative suffering just teaches you to minimize yourself.
And scenario 3, spiritual bypassing. Everything happens for a reason. Just have faith. I know some people mean well, but sometimes it feels like they're using spirituality to escape the moment.
Right. Real faith can hold 2 things at once. Hope and pain. Bypassing uses hope to erase pain. The difference is, does the sentence make you feel seen or silenced?
Okay, so why do people do it? I don't want to paint them as villains.
Most of the time, it's not evil, it's discomfort. Pain makes people feel helpless, and helplessness is scary. So they reach for phrases that restore control. Look on the bright side is often a way of saying, I don't know what to do with this. But impact still matters.
So sometimes toxic positivity is the speaker regulating their anxiety, not supporting yours.
Exactly. It's a self-soothing reflex wrapped as advice.
Okay, let's flip it. What if I'm the one who does toxic positivity to myself? Because I catch myself saying, stop being dramatic. You should be grateful.
That's a huge point. Self-toxic positivity usually comes from fear. Fear of being weak, fear of falling apart, fear of disappointing people. So the inner voice becomes harsh and motivational. But it's not motivation, it's pressure. A healthier inner voice says, this is hard, and I'm allowed to feel it.
So, what do we say instead? Like real human language, not therapy speak.
Okay, real scripts, simple and human. That sounds heavy. I'm here. Do you want comfort or solutions? You don't have to be strong with me. Tell me what part hurts the most. I'm listening, no fixing. And if you're talking to yourself, you can say, I can feel this and still be a good person.
I like that. Because it doesn't deny reality. It just makes room for it.
Exactly. Healthy positivity comes after honesty, not instead of it.
So, if you're listening and you've been told, at least, right when you were breaking, it makes sense that you stopped talking. But tonight, maybe you try something new. You don't have to turn pain into a lesson immediately. You can just let it be real.
And the line that sums it up, toxic positivity says, be okay so I can relax. Healthy support says, you don't have to be okay for me to stay.
Okay, so we named it, we exposed it, we even practiced better responses. But part 3 is the most important question. What do you do after you realize you've been living under toxic positivity? Because it's not enough to say, yeah, that's toxic, and move on. The real work is learning to sit with reality without panicking, and without forcing yourself to turn every feeling into a lesson.
Exactly. And I want to say something clearly. The goal is not to become negative. The goal is to become honest. Healing starts when you stop arguing with your emotions. If you're sad, you don't need to justify it. If you're tired, you don't need to perform strength. You can just say, this is hard. That sentence alone is powerful because it stops the internal fight.
So the first step is permission. Like, I'm allowed to feel this. Because a lot of people aren't even fighting life. They're fighting their own feelings about life.
Exactly. And here are 3 small practices that actually help. Simple, not complicated. First, name the feeling without fixing it. I feel overwhelmed. Period, no, but at least. After. Second, replace bright side pressure with gentle truth. Instead of, I should be grateful, try 2 things can be true. I'm grateful and I'm hurting. Third, choose safe people. If someone always answers your pain with advice or comparison, don't give them your deepest feelings. Give your honesty to people who can hold it.
And if you're the person who does toxic positivity to others, what then? Because I know some listeners are thinking, oh, I've said those phrases.
Then you don't need shame. You need awareness. Next time, pause and try one of these. Thank you for telling me. I'm listening. That sounds heavy. Do you want comfort or solutions? And if you already messed up, you can repair it. You can literally say, I realize I tried to fix it too fast. I'm sorry. Tell me more. That repair is powerful. It builds trust.
I love that, because it tells people, you don't have to be polished for me.
And that's what everyone wants, honestly. Not perfect words. Presence.
So if you're listening and you've been forcing yourself to smile through everything, I just want to say, you don't have to turn pain into a performance. You're allowed to be human here. You're allowed to have a hard season without explaining it away.
And you don't lose your strength when you admit you're not okay. sometimes that's the first real act of strength.
All right, that's where we'll end today. If this episode made you feel seen, share it with someone who needs it, especially the person who always says, "I'm fine," when they're not.
And if you want to support us, you can like, subscribe, and save this episode. It helps the channel more than you think.
Your support keeps this space alive. Thank you for being here. And we'll see you in the next episode.